This episode is about where audio theatre fits in with your business model, whether you're a producing house making your own work or presenting venue, programming touring content. But before we dive in, I need to share something that landed this week. And while it's UK data, the story it tells is one that is global. The Theatre in the UK 2026 report just came out from the Society of London Theatre and UK Theatre. It's the most comprehensive look at the financial health of theatres we've had in years. And the numbers are stark. 36% of organisations expect to run a deficit this year. Among subsidised theatres, that rises to 51%. In real terms, ticket prices have fallen 8.9% since 2019. Theatres have absorbed inflation rather than pass it on to audiences, and 91% expect costs to keep rising. Now, this is UK data, but the pressures it describes aren't unique to Britain. Theatres globally are facing the same structural squeeze. Costs rising faster than revenue, ticket prices that can't keep pace without pricing out audiences, and touring economics that make geographic reach increasingly challenging. This isn't a crisis of popularity. Audiences are strong. In fact, the West End drew 17.64 million people last year, which is more than Broadway. The median ticket price across the UK is £41, with 41% of tickets sold at £35 or below. Now, every theatre surveyed offers free or discounted ticket schemes. People want to come to theatre, but strong demand doesn't automatically translate into financial resilience. The problem with the industry is structural. You cannot raise prices indefinitely, you cannot absorb costs forever, and you cannot cut your way to growth. What you need is a revenue diversification. Income streams that don't compete with live ticket sales but serve different audiences and generate long-term value. That's exactly what I've been saying in this podcast over the many episodes, and that's what audio theatre does. It reaches people who cannot attend live, whether that's because of distance, disability, care and responsibility, shift work and so on. It generates a long tail income so that work keeps earning long after the live run ends. And it extends your geographic reach digitally, getting to audiences in places where physical touring isn't economically viable. So whether you're in the UK or elsewhere, the fundamentals are the same. Theatres need new revenue streams that support their mission without competing with their core business. So let's talk about where audio fits, whether you're making work or programming work. So, if you're a producing house, you're already making work. Let's say, for example, you are doing 6 shows per year, maybe more. Each production represents an investment. Your commissioning fees, developing time, rehearsals, casting, technical resources. And once the run ends, that investment stops generating income. But it doesn't have to. In the Theatre in the UK 26 report shows that 35% of organisations actually plan to increase production investment this year. But interestingly, 54% say that it will be harder than last year. Costs are rising, margins are tightening, and there's less headroom for risk, and that's putting pressure on commissioning, touring and developing budgets. Audio theatre lets you extend the value of the work you're already working in. You're not creating audio instead of live theatre, you're capturing the live theatre and giving it a second life. The production happens on stage in front of an audience exactly as it would anyway, but you also capture the audio and the recording becomes an asset that can keep earning long after the physical run ends. This isn't about making cheaper work, it's about making the work you've already commissioned work harder for you financially. To understand how this works, I want to step away from theatre for a minute and I want you to think about cinema. Because a film just doesn't release in cinema and disappear, it moves throughout different windows, each designed for a different audience at different pricing points. First, there is the theatrical release, the premium experience, the highest price, the reason people queue at an opening night at a cinema. Then it moves into a premium rental for people who missed the cinema run but want to watch at home. Then it's available for purchase, people who want to own it, and then it enters the streaming services. You know, the casual viewers who want access to a library without committing to individual purchases. Each window serves a different market. Each generates different revenue. And together, they extend the commercial life of the film far beyond the theatrical run. Theatre can think the same way, not in terms of specific platforms or pricing, because that depends on your venue, your audience, and your business model, but in terms of the principle. The work doesn't have to stop earning when the live run ends. It can serve different audiences in different formats over different time frames. So the live performance is the theatrical release. The premium experience, the thing people come to your building to see, but once you've captured the audio, that recording can reach people who couldn't attend. It can be made available weeks, months, or years later. It can travel to other regions, it can be packaged differently for different audiences, and how you structure those windows, what you will make available, when, and at what price, through which channels, that's for you to decide. But the principle is universal. The work you're making can generate income beyond its live run. So what does this look like in practice if you're in a producing house? So some theatres bundle digital access with live ticket purchases. You can buy a seat and you can get the recording afterwards, either immediately or after the run closes. And that creates additional value for audiences who want to revisit the experience, and it can help justify ticket pricing in a market where you can't raise prices indefinitely. Other theatres build subscription services. Regular attendees get ongoing access to a library of past productions, and this creates recurring revenue. It builds loyalty and it gives audiences a reason to stay connected to your work year round. But there's another pathway worth considering, and it flips the traditional model. Instead of capturing audio from a fully staged production, you could start with audio theatre first. You know, that audio drama, script in hand, the old-fashioned radio drama in front of an audience. You commission a new audio drama piece, perform it in live in your theatre space as an audio drama, then release the recording. That work can also tour, physically or digitally. It will build an audience, it generates an income, and critically and crucially, it proves demand. Then if the audio succeeds, if it sells well, if it resonates with local audiences, if it builds a following, you can then talk about and then commission it to a full live theatre production. You've already tested the market, you know the story works, you've built awareness with audiences, you've already experienced it in audio form, and now you're investing it in the full staging with far less risk than if you would carrying out the commission of a live show blind. Now, this isn't a new model, it's how the film industry works with limited releases. You test the market with a smaller investment, then scale up if it proves viable. Theatre can do the same. Audio becomes your development pathway, your market research, and your revenue stream all at once. The specifics depend on your business model, but the outcomes are the same. Work keeps earning, audiences keep engaging, and you're generating income from assets you've created. Whether that's capturing existing productions or starting with audio first commissions that might eventually transfer to the stage. This is revenue diversification. You're not replacing live ticket sales, you're adding income streams that serve different audiences. So why this matters for new writing in particular? So there's another advantage here, and it's particularly relevant if you're commissioning new work. So the Theatre in the UK 26 report cites national theatre research showing that between 2014 and 24, subsidised theatres receiving open to all submissions year-round declined by 70%, new writing festivals by 76%, and playwriting courses by 44%. The infrastructure for discovering and developing new writers is contracting. My opinion is that audio theatre offers a different pathway. Instead of commissioning a new play and hoping it finds an audience, you can commission an audio drama first. You perform it live in front of a space, the script in hand, the old BBC studio recordings, actor, director, sound designer, the full creative team, but without the overall cost and risk of a live stage production. You've captured the essence of the performance, you release it digitally and watch what happens. If audiences respond, if it sells, if people talk about it, if other venues want to present it, you've just proven demand. You had the data, the story works, you know that there's an audience for it, and now if you decide to commission it as a full live production, you're investing based on evidence rather than instinct. This is how other industries work. Publishers release ebooks before committing to print runs, film studios do limited releases before going wide, music labels release singles before albums, and they test the market, gather data and scale up if demand is there. Theatres can do the same. Audio theatre becomes your market research. It's not a compromise, it's a strategic first step. The writer gets a work performed and heard and royalties, and the creative team gets to develop their piece. Audiences get to experience it, and if it succeeds, you commission it to the full staging with less financial risk than what you would have going in straight to the production. So that long tail income also makes commissioning new work more sustainable. So you're not depending entirely on the box office from a single run. The audio keeps earning for you, for the writer and for everyone involved, and it reaches audiences beyond your region. So it builds the writer's reputation, and crucially, it gives you the evidence you need to make bigger investment decisions with confidence. This doesn't change the upfront economics about commissioning. You still need to pay the writers fairly, you still need to fund the audio production, but it changes the long-term calculus. Work doesn't just disappear after a few performances, it keeps working, earning income, building audiences and providing the data that helps you decide if it deserves that full production. Now, none of this requires you to become a tech company, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, because the Grey Hill, the infrastructure already exists. We have the digital storefronts, the secure file hosting, the payment processing, and the delivery systems that handle everything from individual sales to subscription management. Your tech team can capture the audio during the live performance, or you can hire a local sound engineer for the post-production. What you need beyond that is that digital storefront and marketing support, and that's where the partnership comes in with the Grey Hill. We provide the store, the hosting and the marketing infrastructure so you can focus on making work rather than managing tech. But the principle holds regardless of how you do it. The work you're making can generate income beyond its live run. The question isn't whether it's possible, it's whether you're structured to take advantage of it. Now, if you present work, i.e. you work in a receiving house or a presenting venue, this part of the podcast is for you. What I would say about a presenting venue is that programming touring content rather than making your own, you're facing a different set of pressures. So again, to go back to the recent study from the UK Theatre 26 report, notes that 75% of respondents describe touring as poor or very poor, with more than half of touring organisations recording losses in 2023. Touring is expensive and risky, and those costs get passed on to receiving venues through higher fees and guarantees. That makes programming harder. You need work that will sell, but you're carrying more financial risk. And if you're in a smaller market or somewhere geographically remote, you're competing with those larger houses, those larger theatres for the same tours. So audio theatre gives you an option. It's not a replacement for live touring. Nothing replaces that experience of watching performers in the same room, but it's a way for you to diversify your programme, generate income and serve audiences with work they would otherwise lose access. Let's look at what this means in practice. So one of the most straightforward opportunities is working with local companies, amateur dramatic societies, youth theatre groups, community ensembles and local professional artists who are making work in your venue. An example of this from my own experience is working with Theatre Royal Dumfries, who worked with the Guild of Players to capture a new play called Wreckages of Trust. The Guild of Players is a local amateur dramatic society. They're producing high quality work, supporting locals. And that recording is now available digitally. It's generating income for the Guild, it's building an archive of local work, and it's giving audiences who can't attend the performance a way to experience the production. Now, this model works because the work is already happening in your building. You're not commissioning it, you're not funding production, you're providing the infrastructure, the space, the technical support and the platform to turn a live event into a digital asset. And that asset keeps earning. The union contracts ensure that everyone involved gets paid and also receive royalties. The writers, the performers, the creative team. The work can be sold in other venues, raising the profile of local writers and companies, and crucially it's a way for supporting community outreach and new writing development without requiring major production investment. For venues committed to supporting local talent, this is particularly valuable. You're not just hosting performances, you're helping local artists build portfolios, generate income, and gain exposure that might lead to work with larger producing houses. The other example for this is about touring artists. So whether that is a comedian, a musician, or theatre companies, you might be interested in recording their work. Some see it as tour merchandise. They perform live, capture the audio, and sell it as part of their offering. Others might be open to the venue capturing and selling it locally, particularly if it generates income that artists wouldn't have captured otherwise. This requires negotiation. Some artists will say yes, some won't. Some will want control over the recording and distribution. Others might be happy for the venue to handle it in exchange for a share of the revenue. It depends on the artist, their goals, and the relationship you've built with them. But the infrastructure exists. If a comedian is doing a show and it's one night only in your venue and they're open to you recording that, you can capture that performance, edit them into a polished audio file and make it available for sale. The comedian then gets an additional revenue stream and you get a share of that digital revenue as well. For the comedian, that then becomes merchandise for the rest of the tour, and audiences who couldn't attend live or who would want to relive that experience have a way to access the work. It's the same logic applies to live music. A band performs at your venue, you capture the audio, and that recording becomes an album that can be sold digitally. Or an author appears as part of a literary festival, you record the conversation, package it with the ebook, and offer it as part of a bundle. I use these small examples because they are small scale opportunities. They do not have huge risk. So building it up together creates a brand new income stream for you and your organisation. Presenting venues don't need the same technical capacity as producing houses. You're not building sets, designing lighting, or running week-long rehearsal periods, but you do need access to someone who can capture high-quality audio during live performances, and you do need a platform to host and sell that content. So your existing tech team can handle the capture, or you can hire a local sound engineer for the post-production. We at the Grey Hill provide this digital storefront and marketing support. You can focus on programming, the relationships with artists, and we handle the tech side for you. But again, the principle is the same. Work that happens in your venue can generate the income beyond the night is performed. The question is whether you're structured to take advantage of that opportunity. So whether you're making work or presenting it, the case for audio theatre comes down to three things: revenue, diversification, geographic reach, and long-term value. So the UK Theatre 2026 report makes it clear. Theatres can't rely on live ticket sales alone. Prices cannot keep rising. Costs won't stop increasing. And external shocks, whether that's another pandemic, an energy crisis, or a recession, can destabilise earned income overnight. Revenue diversification is about reducing that risk. If your only income stream right now is live ticket sales, you are vulnerable. If you're also generating income from digital sales and subscriptions, you are more resilient. There's also a new opportunity worth considering. With the union contracts now in place, there's nothing stopping a venue from presenting a script-in-hand performance with audio soundscape alternative for full touring productions. You're not just offering an audio recording, you're presenting it live, with actors performing the script in hand, and the sound design creating atmosphere. It's theatre, but without the full staging costs, and it's a way to bring professional work to venues that couldn't otherwise afford traditional touring fees. And this model hasn't been widely tested yet, but I would say that the infrastructure is there, and for smaller venues in particular, it could open up programming options that were previously out of reach. The report also shows that touring is struggling, so costs are rising, fees are increasing, and smaller venues in particular are finding it harder to afford professional touring work. And that means audiences in smaller towns, rural areas, and less densely populated regions are losing access to theatre. Audio theatre doesn't replace physical touring, nothing does. But it does provide an alternative pathway. A venue that can't afford to host a full touring production can still present the audio version. They might do it as a listening event, or they might offer it as a digital to their local audience. Either way, audiences who wouldn't otherwise have access to that work can experience it. This extends your reach as a producing house, and it expands programming options for presenting venues. Work doesn't have to tour physically to reach a national or international audience. It can tour digitally, and that model is far more economically sustainable. The third reason is long-term value. So theatre, let's think about it. Performances happen and then they're gone, and that's part of the magic, but it's also a limitation. So once a run ends, the work stops generating income. The actors move on to other projects, the set gets struck, the production disappears. So the audio captures something permanent, not the full experience. You can't replicate the presence of live performers in a room, of course, but something that retains value. A recording of that play can be sold, shared, studied, and enjoyed for many years. And there's another dimension to long-term value, and that's secondary licensing for translation. A production happens in English, but that doesn't mean that the work stops there. Theatre companies working in other languages, whether that's Gaelic, Welsh, Spanish, or any other language, can negotiate the rights to record the production in their language. The original live production happens once, but the audio can reach audiences globally in their own language on their own terms. So this extends the reach of writers and expands access to work that might never have toured internationally. It also creates additional income streams for the original producing house, for the writers, and for the companies producing translated versions. There's one more point about making. It goes to our mission at the Grey Hill. So I would say that most theatres exist to serve their communities, not just to sell tickets, but to provide access to culture, develop local talent, and anchor civic life. The Theatre in the UK 26 report shows just how much theatres do beyond their core programming. For example, 95% deliver programming contribution to social good, 86% run workshops with local schools, and every respondent operates free or discounted ticket schemes. The report also shows that every £1 spent on a theatre ticket generates £1.40 in local economic activity. Theatres bring people into city centres, they support restaurants, shops, pubs and transport. Audio theatre extends that impact digitally. Audiences who discover your work online might visit in person later. They might recommend it to friends, they might support local artists they've discovered through your platform. Audio theatre supports that mission, but only if the revenue stays local. When you sell digital content through the Grey Hill, the revenue stays in your region. So that money goes to support the venue, it pays the local artists and funds the education and access programs you run. If you compare that to major streaming platforms, When someone buys audio content through a global platform, the majority of that revenue goes offshore, to shareholders, to corporate infrastructure, to markets that have nothing to do with the community where the work was made. And this difference matters. Revenue diversification isn't just about generating more income, it's about where that income goes, who it supports, and whether it strengthens the local cultural infrastructure or does it extract from it. And that's why the Grey Hill was set up, to support the local theatres and local artists by directly giving money back through digital sales. Remember, you're not doing this alone. And this is the final thing that I would like to say. The infrastructure exists. The union contracts are up and running. Partnerships are available to each and every theatre. And more importantly, other theatres are now starting to explore the same opportunities. This is not an isolated experiment. It's about building a collective model where theatres can share work, audiences discover productions from other regions, and everyone benefits from a stronger, more connected sector. Audio theatre works best when it's treated as infrastructure, not a gimmick, and when venues work together to make content available across regions, when writers retain their IP and benefit from long-term income, when audiences can access work regardless of where they live or whether they can attend in person. That's the model we're building here at the Grey Hill, and whether you're a producing house or a presenting venue, there's a place for you in it. So, that's where audio fits. It's been a bit of a long one this episode. Whether you're making work or programming it, it's not about the replacement of live theatre, it's not about doing things more cheaply, it's about revenue diversification. It's about geographic reach, and it's about the long-term value, and it's about reaching new audiences and generating income from work you're already making. The Theatre in UK Report 26 shows why this matters. Theatres are under financial pressure. Revenue diversification isn't optional anymore. Audio theatre provides it without competing with your core business, without requiring major infrastructure investment, and without undermining the live experience that makes theatre irreplaceable. So next time, we'll talk about legacy, translation, and the long tail. How audio theatre builds value over decades and not just seasons. How work created in one language can reach audiences globally, and how the decisions you make now shape what your organisation can do 10, 20 or 50 years from now. And that's episode 7, the final episode of this season. If you want to get in touch with me and discuss about diversification, the Grey Hill, any of our conversations so far within the podcast, all the details are in the description. You can contact me via the LinkedIn. Thank you so much for listening. I had this script already done and I had to rewrite it once the new 26 report came out. And I think it's more important to highlight some of the up-to-date information that's came out this week. If you found this useful, please do share it with someone who might benefit. And if you want to talk about how this works for your venue, then again, please get in touch. We are here to help.